Live. We are authentically connected here on Substack. Hey, you're with me, Deb D, and my new Substack pal, Amanda. And we are here to talk about choosing both authenticity and connection. And we're going to get into the juiciness of why that's important in life, but also why that's important here on Substack. Because Amanda and I know each other because of Substack. And Substack invites us to be authentic in our storytelling and in everything that we share. Plus, it's inviting us to connect to other creators and writers, which is exactly what we're doing. So, Substack, are you listening? We are listening. And we want to just invite this conversation because it can get juicy. Are we being authentic? How are we connecting? So let me start by connecting with you all. If you do not know me, it is my absolute pleasure to connect with you now. My name is Deb D. Mum and Dad called me Deborah Lynn Driscoll, but most people call me Deb D. My publication here on Substack is the Intuitive HERoine. I also publish the Be Her podcast. And essentially, my North Star is working with women around their leadership, but their self sovereignty, self actualization leadership. And the way that we do that at the Be Her Collective is we reclaim our intuitive wisdom, we remember who the fuck we are, and we return to heroine status in our story, our life, and our leadership. So that's a little bit about me. For those who I haven't connected with, please let's connect. But for now, connect with my co collaborator here, Amanda.
I love that. I love your intro, Deb. Every time I hear it, I'm like, yes, I'm so on board for all of that. Um, for those who don't know me, I am Amanda Aaron, living in the beautiful west coast of Canada, and I write the Soul Musings pod. I have a podcast and a Substack publication there, and I write on topics of womanhood, motherhood, spirituality, sometimes faith deconditioning as well. And I find that my natural Scorpio rising from astrology really just makes me want to dive into all of the deep taboo topics. And I find
Mm.
that when we don't talk about them, we kind of tend to hide our light. And when we do talk about them, we just like shine light on all that shit and just let it go. And then we can rise to the power that we were made to be, and just cast off anything that no longer fits. So that is just what makes me tingle. And I love writing. I've journaled since I was 10 years old, so I have 25 years of my life recorded now. And that's exactly what I started writing for my memoir. So I'm writing a memoir, a book right now. And I signed with a self-publishing company, so that'll come out later next year. I love all those
Yeah.
juicy femme details.
Yes, yes. So you can already see if you're like connecting the dots, you can see why Amanda and I went, oh yeah, I want to connect with you. And we're going to share more about our connection. But Amanda, you want to take everyone to like, how did we actually, because Substack's getting big. There's a
Hmm.
lot of creators on here. So Amanda, share the story about how we first connected.
So I this year I've been very purposeful of going into the chats on other publications in order to share my insights and connect with others. And there's just a lot of people who are really quite open to connection through other people's chats. And so Veronica from the Lemon Tree Mindset, she is very active in her chats. She has a large subscriber group, and she's often doing things like collaboration, celebrating people's wins, asking who wants to connect or do collaborative articles together. So that's where Deb and I connected. And I just, we had seen similar themes in the chat, and we connected on the one-on-one, the direct chat message through Substack, and then through a number of emails. And Deb had a podcast that just released, and through her Be Her Collective, there's other meetings that she leads as well as other things like through LinkedIn and other workshops and things like that. And so as I had time, I was connecting with Deb through the things that she was putting on and through her posts on Substack and her notes on Substack and the email thread from the Be Her Collective. And I was just drawn in, like I think if anyone else knows Deb, like you just have this charismatic kind of like unreal ability to connect with people, and that's what I saw through your writing, through your voice. I loved listening to recordings of other Substack lives that you had done with people, and I felt like you were speaking to me each time, and so I built on that connection. I reached out to you, I let you know when things resonated with me, and I could have heard crickets back, but every time you replied, you always had a reply. And so slowly that relationship started to build totally organically, just all on its own.
Yeah, and yes, I remember it the same way, but also from my point of view. And I want to just say to the people who are connecting here, we're so pleased that you're here. Keep the chat alive because if I can't read it, maybe Amanda can. If you have any questions or want to share anything, we want to be connecting and collaborating with you. But like I remember a little bit of like curiosity and also a slightly nervousness when I was on that chat because I was like, there were so many different people that you could potentially
Hmm.
connect to.
Yeah.
Because if anyone's not connected to the lemon tree, you want to be, check it out. Because it's really fun and there's genuine possibilities of connection. And I also I have to say I did connect with some people there and there wasn't actually the follow through.
Mm.
So that's what I also loved is that you and I actually turned up for each other in the beginning. It was like, I don't really know this person, but I'm going to be interested. I'm going to see what they're writing about. I'm going to, even just in the early, I don't know if this was true for you, Amanda, but in the early days, like anyone new who I didn't know who liked or dared to comment on anything I was putting out on Substack, I was like, who is that golden person who has just made my day?
Yes.
Because sometimes it can feel like, is anyone listening? Other than the people who are already in your circle, So
Yeah.
to create an authentic, genuine connection with someone who you really don't know, they've just met you through your writing or your speaking, I think is just so delicious
Hmm.
because you get to meet someone in a different way. It's through their storytelling and
Hmm.
what they're bothering to share, what they want to say, you know? Yeah. But I want to just acknowledge you for that, is that you really did turn up for the connection.
Mm.
you know,
Thank you.
you know, yeah. And I think that's something that's really important when we're thinking about authentic connection is, am I connecting for an authentic, really want to know this person? Or am I connecting more thinking of a transaction? Like, oh,
Oh gosh.
like
I had
I'm
that
not,
just recently.
yeah, it happens. It happens. So what happened with you? How did you know
Oh,
that it,
it was me. I was transactional. I was just like,
oh,
oh, let's collaborate. 1,000 words and send me 100 word bio and then send me a picture and blah, blah, blah. And the lady was like, okay, that sounds like a lot of corporate talk. I'm sure there's a real person behind these words. Why don't we have a conversation? I was like, oh my God, here I am, like talking about all the divine femme stuff. And I've just like touted out a whole transactional way of collaborating instead of like, here's my heart. Like, let's talk, let's build a relationship. All of these things are very feminine traits, but it's so easy to get stuck in that old way of just like transaction and linear thinking and build a structure and lay it out. And um yeah, it's just that reminder of like these are real people. Let's just like
yeah.
talk and let's be like, hey, how are you doing? Or what's going on in your world? And our writing is definitely a huge viewpoint. It can be like just that opening up the lens to see right straight through to your heart. And when we're doing the writing of storytelling and being authentic through our writing, even to the point of thinking like we might be sacrificing connection because we're being so authentic in sharing our stories
Mm-hmm.
through our writing. But the gold of that is the thread of connection that it builds afterwards too.
Yeah, and I remember that with when I started to engage in your work is something I really appreciated was, oh, Amanda's going to go there. She's going to say the thing. It's like you've got a really a strong point of view about whatever that you're speaking about, you know? And like you
Mm,
said in your intro, it's like I want to talk about the things that maybe we don't normally talk about as women. And
yeah.
I'm like, I am so there for that. I am so there for that. And so I think, for everyone here on Substack, where we are encouraged to be authentic and say what you want to say, first of all, that's not always the easiest thing to do. And let me tell you why. It's not because of you, it's because you're human. So, because of the way we're wired, like if you didn't get the memo, we're all wired for safety. Our brain, our nervous system, everything from when we were little, we are wired for safety. Is this safe for me? Do I feel secure in this? So when it comes to authenticity and connection, if we have to choose one, connection will always win. And often a connection to ourself or a connection to feeling like we're either allowed or people understand who we are and we won't be othered. Like all the ways that we can choose connection at a cost to our authenticity, which I
Mhm.
think happens to women a lot because we are also wired to um, feel like we always have to be aware of, am I safe? And also we've been playing in a world which is not actually constructed for us in terms of like how we like to connect. So if anyone's out there thinking, oh, maybe I've been a little bit transactional, or I don't know if I've been quite as authentic as I want to be, saying what I want to say here on Substack, then, breathe and just be with this is a part of being a human walking around in our meat suits on earth is we will always choose connection. But something that Amanda and I have found is that when we can connect and also choose authenticity, when we can choose both, what it opens up is a whole new playground of discovery with self and connections.
Mhm.
So let's tell some stories because we're storytellers.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
Amanda, let's tell some stories. Like, share a story about either when, well, share whatever story you want to share about connection and authenticity, whether you connected or didn't.
Yeah, I was just gonna share the one with my mom. So, I was raised in a really conservative Christian household, and her faith has remained the same. And of course, I've learned a lot in my adult life about just how Christianity was kind of rolled out in a very mandatory way, a very patriarchal way, including, how the texts of the Bible were chosen and including how women's pleasure and sexual arousal were suppressed. And it has made me quite furious, and even how Christianity portrays God as male, that there's a male deity at the top of the structure. And and so a lot of that doesn't connect with me personally anymore, but she is very adamant that her grandson, my son, needs to be saved and, admit that he's a sinner and have Jesus Christ as his savior, and all of that is still, true in her language for her faith, but it's not true for me anymore. And so we were talking about words like witch. So that's a word that I have broken down, learned the etymology, learned the history, and feel very connected with that word of witch because it really just means somebody who is practicing the craft of the earth and connected with the earth.
Hmm.
And 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 in my mom's faith, that is a very evil word or an unsafe word. And so for me to share that new identification with her. That was my authenticity in a moment where I didn't know what the connection would be.
Mm,
And it was quite a tense phone call, and I had a lot of talk about it with my husband. And a week later, I received a letter from my mom in the mail just saying that she had some time to think about the conversation and she would prefer to agree to disagree. She still loves me as her daughter. She still, thinks that I'm doing an amazing job in life and as a mother. And the fact that we express our faith differently shouldn't be a sticking point for disagreement or dissension, and just agree to disagree and be peaceful. And so that was a moment where that authenticity felt so risky for me, because I
mm.
felt like the connection was going to be sacrificed, but it wasn't, and I lived through it. Now I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, it's okay to be authentic.
yeah. And there's also a cost when we're not,
Yes.
like choosing to keep that connection with your mother in a way that was
Mm,
her understanding and not maybe confrontational for her
mhm,
meant that your relationship going forward would always have just that little bit of inauthenticity there.
mhm.
And you can't know what that would have meant, like
Yeah,
further
yeah.
down the line.
Getting off the phone, my first reaction was crying because I felt like I had left it too long. I felt like I left the conversation too
Wow.
long, and now it was going to be an issue. Um,
Mm,
and that would have been, the other side of things. Had we not dove into that phone call, that would have been continuing to sacrifice the authenticity for the sake of the connection.
yeah. So when we're choosing both, everyone who's tuning in here, like congratulate yourself if you've chosen both because it can feel really risky.
Hmm.
And there's risk on either side, but when you're in the moment of choice and you're like, I'm going to authentically put this out there, particularly here on Substack around our writing and our speaking and our whatever your strong point of view is with what you're about. Like, what do you write and speak about? And are you, for the sake of connecting to others, just maybe hiding a little bit
Hmm.
of yourself? I mean, I've definitely had that. Like, for the most part, I'm out there. But last Friday, I released a podcast episode where I went really out there. And I'm only a week into a whole new authentic way of connecting, which is channeling my son and the souls that he hangs out with on the other side. And let me tell you, my friends, it feels risky. It felt risky for a really long time. Like I knew that that was authentically me, but I took a while to figure out that authenticity and connection within me first before I could like put it out there. But I will tell you, in the past week, I have felt really relaxed into myself to
Mm,
choose the authenticity. And because I think the choosing both is also choosing to actually connect to your authentic self fully,
mhm,
to then be able to create connections with others that are authentic and not transactional or just the shiny parts of you, you know. Like this past weekend, I was at a writing retreat here on the island of Tobago. If you don't know me, I live on the island of Tobago, deep in the Caribbean, and yes, it's paradise, and I'm pretty happy about it. Um, this past weekend, there was 4 days I was away at a writing retreat, which was like the golden ticket for me. I was like, a writing retreat here on my island. I don't have to travel to it. It was also on my 2026 list of things I wanted to do. And I was like, thank you, universe, for bringing this to my island. It was magical. It was amazing. And I was the only one. I was the only one from Tobago. All of the other riders who were there were from the island of Trinidad, which is next door. So Trinidad and Tobago, one country, but very different islands. So everyone had come over from Trinidad, so they're living the Trinidad life, not the Tobago life. But I was also the only one who wasn't born in Trinidad, Tobago. So essentially, I was the only white girl there. And it actually took me about 7 hours to realize. Like, I got that I was the only Tobago person, but it took me like most of the first day before I went, oh, I'm the white girl here. And I mean, I love that about, at the beginning of the story, because it wasn't like I felt disconnected. I felt really connected to the women there because we're all writers. So we
Mm.
connected in that way. But over the weekend, there were a couple of times when I chose my authenticity and I feared it was going to disconnect me from the group
Mm.
because I don't have a Caribbean cultural context to my writing.
Mhm.
I don't have the same experience as a black or a brown person in my writing. And there were a couple of times, one in particular, it was the Saturday afternoon, and we're all sitting around the big table doing the writing exercise. One of the facilitators is leading and talking about point of view in our writing, and more and more. Like, the workshop was amazing, and there was a point where my point of view was counter to what everyone else at the table was saying. And I thought, I seriously had this thought sitting at the table, I could just shut up and let this go, just let this happen. Or I could say, actually, I have a different opinion. And I didn't jump to it. I swallowed, and then I was like, fuck it, I can't not say something. Like, I want to share what's my point of view of this, not to be disruptive, not to disconnect in any way, but what I was aware of at the time is, if I don't follow through on this authentic connection, like, because it was first about my authentic point of view, but then it was also what I realized is, if I don't follow through on this, I'm going to start to disconnect from the group,
Mm.
and I want to stay connected to the group. And it felt really risky because I didn't know how it was going to be received.
Mhm.
I didn't. And it was a little bit awkward as it kind of landed on the table while the group was kind of sorting out, what did Deb just say? Like, that's not our experience. But we were talking about our writing living in a global context. And so,
Mm.
as an Australian American who now lives in the Caribbean, I have a very different point of view about that and about
Mhm.
language. And it was definitely risky. And there was the follow through. Not everyone, but a few of the writers throughout the weekend came up and personally spoke to me about it, wanting to expand on it, wanting to learn more about it. And I was like, and there's the value in sticking with the authenticity, because
Mm.
it created these deeper connections with a few of the writers. I don't know, maybe a couple of them I really pissed off. They didn't tell me. I don't know. But the group was well connected. Like, there wasn't any bad energy or, any othering. But I don't
Mhm.
know what was happening for all the writers sitting at the table, but I know what was happening for me. And and committing to my authenticity again felt risky, but I'm so glad that I did it, because disconnection, I think, can feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah, I love what you said there about the connection to yourself first, right? I mean, this is the safe spot that you're finding is identifying what your authenticity is, but then also realizing that the most important thing in connection is connection to yourself and being
Yeah,
truthful with uh, where you're at, and then that external connection may or may not come afterwards, but at least you're honoring to yourself and that
yeah,
internal
yeah,
connection.
yeah, yeah. And like, going back to when we first connected, I think something else that um, is a part of the ingredient here for us is that we also had curiosity about the other.
Mm.
Like it took a couple of beats before I was like, "And what do you write about? This is what I write about. This is where you are." Like not all connections are going to be immediate,
Hmm.
but when you can stay with the authenticity with who you are, you do find that when you find an authentic connection, it doesn't become something you have to work on. It becomes fun. It becomes
Yeah.
playtime, because when you and I connect now, Amanda, it's like the first 15 minutes is just us telling stories about our lives and catching up. But we don't really know each other that well, but we already feel authentically connected.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're so lucky.
I know, really. I even reflect, I think there's still a level of like self-development and just personal growth getting to this point, right? I remember even 4 or 5 years ago, I would have reached out to someone very similar to you, like having a podcast, being very focused in feminine leadership. And the reaction was completely different. Whether, she recognized that I was reaching out from a place of insecurity, I don't know. But her reaction was, these are my, mentor and coaching services. And if you're not going to purchase the
Ah,
services, I'm not going to connect. And I was pretty heartbroken at that. Like, I was just really looking for a like-minded friend in a
mm,
similar industry, and more looking like colleague, kind of coworker type of building relationship, but that she wasn't open to that. And so I remember it being really crushing, but just now, years later, coming from a place of like growth and confidence and just like exuding that, well, exactly what you teach with her story, right? Like
yeah,
being the lead of my own life and
yeah,
writing my own story. I just feel like it lands a lot differently with women when I reach out. I feel very little need to be competitive or insecure, like on either end. And it just makes a huge difference in how that connection lands with the other person.
yeah. And I think it will always happen that not every outreach for connection will create the connection. You
Yeah.
you take the risk that the other person isn't playing the same way in the playground as you,
Hmm.
doesn't want to collaborate and explore, and so be it. That's not your person. It's not your person. But I do feel the desire within me to create more connections that are authentic and curious and can then become like really generous and generative, like what we're doing right now with,
Hmm.
okay, so because this is how this happened, people. This is how this happened. We were like, we want to go live. Okay, so what are we going to talk about? Like there wasn't an agenda. It
Yeah.
was like, we're really enjoying connecting. We really want to connect more with other creators and writers here on Substack. So, how can we do that? And we explored. We could have written an article together. We could have continued to do what we're doing, which is like restack and highlight each other's work. But we were like, let's go live. That'll be fun. And when we connected about that, we didn't know what we were going to connect uh, this live to.
Hmm.
But that was a part of the fun also, is in the discovery of that, you know?
Hmm.
So just wanting to invite everybody, be curious about connections and first, you know, authentically connect to yourself and then seek to create those connections. So let's begin to move towards how people can connect to us. And also I just want to invite this before we kind of move towards wrapping up, we're really curious about if this has sparked any stories for you, if there's any moments where you also tried to authentically connect and it didn't go well, or if you've been making some new connections. Because one of the things that we know is that Substack is really inviting creators to connect with each other. And that's not the easiest thing to do.
Hmm.
Sometimes it can feel awkward. Sometimes it can feel risky. And Amanda and I really want to continue to connect with other creators authentically. And so we're interested in your stories. Have you found different ways of connecting to people that maybe we haven't explored yet? We would love to hear that. Or if there's a story or a question maybe that you have, please write it in the comments here, because everyone watching the replay, hey, we see you. We'll be checking out the comments. We'll be, staying connected in all ways. So we're curious about you too. Please connect with us. But Amanda, let's move towards wrapping this baby up with a bow and let people know just a little bit more about what's coming up for you and your writing and your creations, and how you would like people to connect with you.
I am writing mostly how I journey through things in my own kind of womanhood and sexuality, and how I express myself in the world around me. And um, I love being able to highlight other women's stories of that too. I've connected with a few others recently who have shared what they felt were really vulnerable posts, and so I love holding space for women as they do that. So if you have something that's a really vulnerable, raw writing, please tag me or send me a direct message with a link to that post, and I would love to just support you in that and like and comment and restack and just make sure that you feel seen and held, and I just love being able to be that support person. Also, if you have some of those same feelings or resonance with my own writing, I am still looking to build my audience, and I I am very excited to launch my memoir, my first full book next year. Um, and I'm excited to not launch into a void, to be building an audience here, and people that I know are going to also be have that same excitement for when my book launches into the world. So please join me in my publication, and I can't wait to see everyone else's work as well.
Yes, and I believe it when she says she wants to support you, because she really does. The likes, the comments, the restacks, really supporting other creators. I have seen it in real time. And bless you for doing that, because
Mm,
it really supports us as creators when we know that we're not writing and speaking into the void, and that it
mhm,
is landing somewhere. So thank you so much. You really have helped me in the last 6 months with understanding that
amazing.
I can actually connect to people through my writing and my speaking in new ways. So thank you so much. So for me, I one of the things I love to do on Substack is every new moon I go live and I do a new moon circle, which means you can come as you are, you can come live if that works for you and be inside the global circle, or always catch the replay. You've got to love a replay if your time zone's a bit funky. So this Sunday coming up, Sunday the 17th at 12 Eastern, I am opening up a live new moon circle. And let me tell you this, you don't even need to know anything about the moon. You don't even need to know anything about astrology or any of that. But if you're interested in connecting to who you are as a woman, connecting to your heroine stance, main character energy, not to like put on a cape and become the superhero, more to really know yourself, to choose yourself, and to start working with the moon as a way of us re-syncing back into our cycles, then the new moon circles that I do here on Substack is for you. We've got one coming up on Sunday. I also publish episodes of my podcast, the Be Her podcast, on Fridays. So you can listen to any of the episodes already published if you want to do a little binge, or check out the one coming on Friday where I'm going to be talking more about the writing retreat
mm,
that I was at. And just also, if there's anything that Amanda and I have said that resonates, if like Amanda's speaking and you're like, I think I want her to be my new friend too, then direct message Amanda right now. Or if there's something I've been saying, which is, I want to know more about that. Or what's Deb talking about with this intuitive wisdom or heroine status? Direct message us right now, because we do authentically want to connect with you, because we believe that you can choose both. We get it. It's a little bit risky, but so worth the risk. You will get the rewards. Um, Amanda, thank you for sharing this live with me. Please comment, let us know what landed, and reach out, connect to us both, because we are here. Big love, everybody.
Thank you, Deb. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Big love. Bye.